Hello and welcome back to the latest edition of the Devil's Bit Weekly podcast. As I always say, there's no flip-flopping around here, no beating around the bush. We get straight into it. We see Manchester United through to the fifth semi-final in 2 years under Ollie. But can we go one better? That is the big question. We'll be coming up against some familiar faces in the tie with Roma, seeing former players Chris Smalling and Hendrik Mkhitaryan, as well as former Man City striker Zeko. So Edison Cavani is 50 up in Europe after a stunning strike the other night. And it's been a week where we've seen every player under the sun linked to the Reds, but the ones that stick out the most are Jadon Sancho and Rafael Varane. We'll also find out this week that Ollie does in fact give his son field, which was a big surprise. Not at all. As always, you're in the capable hands of Rory, Ray, and Glenn. Lads, how are you doing this week?
What's up, bro?
Good, yeah, good. I was just happy to hear that the manager is actually feeding his kids. Like, that's just delighted to hear that at the end of the day, like, you know yourself.
Yeah, it's good to know that he looks after his kids, not just himself and the players, isn't it?
Yeah, well, with a $3 million a year contract coming, you'd assume that he has money to, provide for the family, wouldn't you?
You wouldn't do. Anyway, so now before we start, there has been some interesting comments made by Paul Pogba about the special one, Jose Mourinho. I'm just going to read out what Paul had to say. So here we go. What I have now with Ollie is different. He wouldn't go against the players. And he continues with, maybe Ollie wouldn't pick them, but it's not like he puts them on the side like they don't exist anymore. That's the difference between Mourinho and Ollie. Strong words there, lads. But he goes on and he continues by saying, once I had a great relationship with Mourinho, everybody saw that. The next day, you don't know what happened. That's the strange thing. We was talking about the relationship there with Mourinho. Well, as this interview went on, there's much more here. So we'll continue. We got the result we wanted. Ollie knows it, and we enjoyed the moment because we know Mourinho and we know what he's like. We don't need this. We just focus on us. We won the game. He lost the game, and he doesn't want to speak about the game. He wants to speak about the dad of someone. That's what he does. Everybody knows him. It's very Mourinho. Very strong words there coming from Paul Pogba in that interview. Lads, what are we thinking about this? Paul Pogba coming out and talking. Strong words there, Glenn. What's your opinion on that one?
Yeah, strong words indeed, Rory. Yeah, the first thing that caught my eye was the fact that Paul Pogba was actually coming out talking himself. He doesn't have his agent down the talking or some family member. No, look, it's a stunning attack really, because you don't really hear of players or players talking about former managers, or even players that they play against. There's always sort of that respect issue. But I think the timing of it is mad in terms of what it might mean for Mourinho, like, because Mourinho's not doing that well, I suppose, at the moment. They were knocked out of the Europa League in the last round, in the round of 16 against Dynamo Zagreb, after having a 2-0 lead going into the second leg and lost. They're fighting for top four. The best player, Harry Kane's, come out and said that he wants to play Champions League football next season. So what does that mean if they don't get top four? They've a League Cup final coming up against City, and I know a couple of Spurs fans that are not too excited about going to play the final, which is mad, because normally when there's a final on the horizon, there's an excitement builds around the club and for the fans. But that final sort of has the potential to be embarrassing for Mourinho, because if Pep and City do what they've been doing to teams and rip them to shreds, then where does that leave Mourinho and Spurs for the rest of the season and their quest for top four? And I just think it puts loads of pressure on Mourinho, and he can't afford to get into a war of words with Pogba, because if he does, it takes a lot of a lot off of what he's doing with Spurs. But the thing is, it's the comments that he makes about Ollie being a man that can, take you out of the team but doesn't just leave you there and forget about you. And for me, I took that as a message. Maybe I'm thinking too much into it, but I took it as a message to some of the Spurs players. Because recently, Mourinho's he's been getting called out because he's supposedly thrown some of his players under the bus, especially after that Newcastle game. So I just felt that, you know, the timing from the United point of view is we've won the game or past that. It doesn't look good for Mourinho, and it gives Pogba the last word really on what their relationship was like. But look, I remember like when he says again when you go back to what he says about, you know, how that relationship was at the beginning. I remember an interview before or not an interview, a press conference from Mourinho before we played Rostov in a Europa League game, and you know, Pogba was getting, you know, criticised by a lot of pundits in the media and all because of his price tag, because he probably wasn't living up to what we thought he might have lived up to. And Mourinho comes out and he says, though, you know, it's not Paul's fault that he's the most expensive player in the world. He says there's a lot of pundits out there that's, you know, need coin. That's his phrase, need coin. You know, it's not Paul's fault that he's a multi-millionaire. He goes on to say he's a lot of respect for Paul and his family and his ma and all that sort of stuff. And at the time, I remember thinking, yeah, that's a Mourinho coming out fighting for one of his players. But then, like, you know, you go into the next season, that quickly changed. There was an interview where James Gilbert asks him, you know, how's things going with Paul Pogba? And you could see Mourinho saying, or really not see him, you heard him. He says, you know, I haven't been happier with Paul than I've never been as happy with Paul as I am now, he says. But you could tell that it was just, you know, something that he had to say rather than he wanted to say. You know what I mean? Did that make sense there, lads? Like, do you get what I'm saying?
Yeah, no, we get what you're saying, Glenn. Yeah.
That's so.
He's saying it for the camera.
Yeah, he was definitely saying it for the camera. And I think the breakdown in the relationship came when Mourinho realised that he couldn't mould Pogba into a Mourinho-like player. You know, Mourinho wanted Pogba to sit there in a tier, sitting in front of the back four and not move, and do what the likes of Matic done from at Chelsea, done what the likes of Makelele and Essien might have done. And I think he might have seen in Pogba that, you know, when the chips are down, you wouldn't really want them in the trenches with you. And what I mean by that is, if you look at some of the players that Mourinho had, say, like Michael Essien, you know, Mourinho trusted him enough to play him at centre-back or play him at right-back. And, you know, it probably didn't always work for Essien in them positions. Do you know what I mean? Like, but you could tell that Essien gave 110%. And I think Mourinho quickly saw that if Pogba wasn't going to get what he wanted, then he wasn't going to put in or give 110% in Mourinho's ways. And I think that's where the breakdown obviously came from. But it's a stunning interview, like it really is. It's a huge attack. And I really think that the club, our club, United or Ollie, might have an influence in that interview. I really do, because I can't imagine, you know, the interviewer asking Paul Pogba them questions without him knowing they were going to happen and without the club knowing. Because the Manchester United banner is in the background, Manchester United tracksuit, and what he says about, you know, Mourinho talking about Ollie and all this, he was a better man and all this sort of stuff. It's like Pogba is trying to stick up for Ollie. Maybe he's after a new contract with a bit more wages or something like that. But it's an unbelievable interview.
Yeah, Glenn, and you said it there, because United are a business at the end of the day, and when you're putting out promotional content like that, whether it's an interview or, you know, an ad or something, it gets reviewed before it goes out. So it's not like Paul Pogba did that in secret and no one saw it. Like this stuff all gets reviewed, and they decide what gets put into the interview and what doesn't. So they're well aware it's happening, and they know how it's going to influence the situation, as in Mourinho was already having a tiff with Ollie. So you're dead right there. But Ray, come in on this here. What do you think's happening?
Oh no, I think Glenn, you know, mentioned a good few important things there. There's a lot in that. This interview was unexpected. I think he definitely, you know, he was in Manchester grounds there, whether it was at the training ground or somewhere at the stadium for sure. So I think he's finally spoken after all this time. He has painted a picture of what was like at the club in the last stages of Mourinho days in charge in this interview. I think that quote, I have what I have now is different. He wouldn't go against the players, basically. That one for me was big, because it tells you a lot about the difference in approach of the two managers. You know, in a way, he could have left it there and it would have been enough, but he didn't shy away and, you know, and let Mourinho have it in a way we haven't seen anyone do, really. But he does have a right to express them thoughts and defend his teammates and manager, you know, from what's after happening Mourinho obviously deflecting the the spotlight off the players and directing it somewhere else, typical Mourinho. And I think that's what Pogba was saying, that when he said that's what he does. We knew that we want to stay away from that, we want to focus on the pitch. I look back on the time when he did come in, and there was a good relationship there, and he did mention that there was a good relationship, and I think Ibrahimovic was the enforcer of that. I think he was like Mourinho's quarterback there, where he'd enforce sort of Mourinho's message to the players, and given the respect that some of the players would have had for Ibrahimovic, would have been sort of in a way where they can't go against maybe some of his tactics. I think that's the big issue. When we went on and we were defending in the way we did, and it was putting restrictions on some of these players, I think that's what inevitably, got him the sack at Man United. He put a lot of restrictions on the team, and I think that, Pogba in a way stood up for some of these players at the club, and that's
definitely. Yeah, and I think, sorry, and let's go there in a second. I think it gives a good kind of confidence now for United, that we're out there and we're defending ourselves publicly, So you can tell that the players in the dressing room have a bit of fight in them nearly, you know what I mean? That they're kind of coming together like that, and you see a player back in the manager. Yeah, Glenn, jump in there. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut across you.
There's just two things I noticed about the interview, and the first one is you can see that Pogba was dying to say the things he said about Mourinho in the interview. We definitely wanted to get that out there, because it's been nearly 2.5 years since Mourinho's left United. You haven't heard Mourinho say anything really about Pogba. He's mentioned a couple of things about Your Highness, because there was meant to be a player that wanted to leave an away game and go on his own card instead of the coach. Mourinho called him Your Highness. Some people say that might have been Pogba he was talking about, but no one actually knows for sure. And then the second thing is that he enjoyed saying it. You could see it in him when he was talking, little smirks and smiles and all that sort of stuff. I just on what Ray says there about sticking up for the players at the time, I think it does appear at the minute. I think Mourinho and Pogba are both at fault for their relationship breakdown. I don't think Pogba helped himself when, he wasn't playing and he's up in the stands and United were beaten by Derby, I think it was, in the League Cup, and he puts things out on Instagram. I can't remember exactly what the post was, but he's laughing and everything or something. Or maybe it was a camera that caught him and another player, I don't know whether it was Luke Shaw at the time, laughing. And then if you remember, the next day, Pogba comes jogging over and he's shaking everyone's hands, and then you see Mourinho saying something to him. He's obviously saying, like, what are you doing on Instagram, or what are you doing smiling for the cameras or whatever. And then you can see him and Pogba getting into a little bit of an argument, really. You know what I mean? They don't look like they're comfortable around each other. And again, that's both of them. There was no need for Pogba to be laughing in the stadium or getting beaten, regardless of what was going on. And yet there was no need for Mourinho to, make it so public that he was, pulling Pogba about what happened the night before. So both of them had a part to play in this, I feel.
Yeah, huge. But at the moment, I suppose, as you said, Spurs aren't on a great run. They are in the final, but their form-wise, we beat them, yada, yada, yada. But is this Pogba kicking Mourinho while he's kind of down? You know what I mean? People, Spurs fans, aren't happy. Are these comments really knocking them? What do you reckon?
I don't think they mind. Honestly, I think in a way they're just done with Mourinho themselves. I think they're just waiting on that League Cup final to see what happens. And I'm sure there'll be a lot of them going against him. He's managed to do it again. It goes stale after a while. I think his flame is slowly dimming down, I think, in the game. I think it just needs a complete different approach, maybe, or something, and a change or something, because the way he's been doing it it's not really working at the minute. But it's still like, it's still Mourinho at the end of the day, and he's won everything in the game, and he deserves a lot of respect for sure. It's just every time something like this comes out, I think it just dims everything that he put into the game.
Yeah.
I think he needs to learn to let go of some of the things. That's what it really is. It comes down, I think, to probably learning to let go.
Yeah.
Of
And I
the
suppose
past.
he has a good legacy there. He doesn't want to spoil it kind of by this being the topic of how people talk about Mourinho, or even include it when they're talking about him.
Yeah,
Look
because
at no, go
you
ahead,
think
mate.
about if he can go out this way. You know, if he goes out this way, it'd be hard to come back from. But I'm sure he's going to have something to say, you know, if he's still the same Mourinho. I'm sure he'll probably have something to say after he wins the next game. You know, I'm still a special one. Don't forget.
Yeah. Now, look, Rory, to answer your question, I definitely think it's kicking Mourinho while he's down. Yeah, I do. I do think that was planned, definitely. And what I'm getting from it is that you can see that Pogba is not too far away from Raiola in terms of how they go and go about dealing with things. You know, I don't want to get into a whole Raiola and Pogba debate and what's been said, but you know, we've seen in the past managers and players maybe saying something, you know, that we think over the top, but this was a full-out attack. You know, some of the things that he's saying, like he went into things about Luke Shaw and everything in the interview and all, and I thought that was a little bit out of order. To be honest with you, I think if anyone should be saying that, it should be maybe Luke Shaw. You know, sticking up for players 2.5 years later when a manager is gone it's not really sticking up for the players. It started sticking the boot in. So it sort of gives you an indication that all these things that have been coming out about Pogba when by his agent and by other people may have indeed been in, do you hear me indeed? What am I talking about? It may have been orchestrated by Pogba himself as well. You know what I mean? He's not innocent in any of this. In anything that's happened between him and Mourinho, or anything that's happened between United and himself and the club over the last couple of years. That's my view on it. It's just from this interview.
Yeah, I know what you're saying there. 2 years later, you're sticking up for other players, but what we're saying at the same time is that all these comments are kind of regulated when they come out. So maybe he was sticking up for players back then, but United weren't letting that go out to the media. You get me?
Yeah, yeah.
It is in some. What we're saying is it's in some way controlled.
Yeah. There's been a bit of history there. Like he didn't speak well about the club, I think, in some of his interviews. I think the Heritage interview where he came out and he started slating nearly everyone. He looked like the Doc out Back to the Future. I don't know, the hair all over the place and all that. Thought that was. That's when I lost a bit of respect, and I knew then that he's kind of lost it.
Yeah.
You know.
And Ray, do you think it's something maybe to do with the new age kind of player compared to like at Chelsea? Have things changed in players' personalities, where they go about themselves?
Yeah, definitely. I think there's a lot of player power now, and as a manager, you have to learn to sort of adapt to that. I would say, and you know, the social media side of things, that's new in the game, obviously, and that's where I think it started over that post where Glenn was saying something about, he came out and he came out, shook his hand, and then Mourinho must have said something. You take that post down, and he was like, "Boy, can I not have it up or something?" And start from that, so you can see, you know, he needs to. That's social media is always going to be there now. That's it.
Yeah,
well, Rory, see the way you were talking about Chelsea. There, you mentioned Chelsea.
Yeah.
The interesting thing is that when Mourinho was successful, when he was at his most successful, his first stint at Chelsea, the Inter Milan team win the Champions League, Porto even, he was still, you know, confrontational, like, you know what I mean, or controversial. There were still things coming out about him, but what you noticed was there was a lot of big players that he coached and managed would come out and back him when he was being, you know, put down by maybe people from the media or other managers maybe saying something. You know, you'd have players like John Terry, Frank Lampard, you know, Marazzi and all them types of players coming out and backing him. But now we've seen that in the last couple of years, he hasn't really had that success that you know that he had like 10, 15 years ago. And you're looking at it now and you're saying there's no one really now coming out to say, listen, he's this or he's that. You know what I mean? It feels like Mourinho's just out there on his own now. And it feels like it could be a sad end. Like, there's no doubt he will go down as one of the greatest for what he's achieved. But I think, you know, the way he went about achieving that is that they're catching up on him. And I think he's going to go out on his own. I don't think after Spurs he'll ever get a job in the Premier League. And I don't think any other top club will touch him. Maybe PSG if he's lucky. But what doesn't help Mourinho at the minute is that the manager that he's replaced at Spurs has now got PSG into a Champions League semi-final, where Mourinho was scrapping for top 4. And now all this is in on top of him. I think it's the end of Mourinho at the top, and I think Pogba is at the stick in the boot in to maybe finally put that final nail in the coffin. I don't see any way back from Mourinho from this. I really don't.
Cheers, lads. Big news anyway, isn't it? But let's bring it back on the pitch. So job done. Another semi-final awaits us, and that's coming up against Roma. So looking back at that Granada game there last night, or was it Thursday? What do you think of that performance, Ray? We saw a few new faces as well, but generally, what would you rate the performance from United, and how do you think Granada performed themselves?
Yeah, it was a good performance overall, Rory. We got the job done. We came out fresh, I thought. The 3 players that were suspended for this game got replaced with some of the players that we haven't seen, and the likes of Twanzebe and all, and it was good to see him, and he put in a great performance. But yeah, it was good that we got our other foot into that semi-final, and we got past, an okay Granada side. We made them look not like they're not really that good, in the way we approached the 2 legs, I thought, and it was a good professional performance again at Old Trafford.
Yeah, happy days. And Glenn, what you reckon yourself?
Yeah, I think Ray said it there, professional performance. I was going to watch the game, and I was thinking, here we go, look, 2-0 up, game is sort of over. You could never see a way back from Granada. They didn't look like they could score in the first leg. I didn't see them, scoring 3 goals at Old Trafford. But in fairness to them, they made it a game. They came out, they tried to press, they tried to win the ball high up the pitch, and that allowed us to play a little bit as well. And I think, I was happy with sort of seeing the relationship that Cavani and Greenwood are sort of building up. Like, we've seen a little bit of it against Spurs, and then we've seen it last night, you know what I mean? Like that, when Cavani was dropping deep, you know what I mean, to collect the ball, Greenwood was pushing off him, and then it was vice versa. Cavani was coming out onto the wing, Greenwood's making a run through the middle. You see Cavani trying to play him in. And that's something we haven't really seen with United in the past couple of seasons, is a relationship between 2 strikers. Because that's what you want. We've always had the 1 or maybe the 3 up there, but we've never had 2, let's say, number 9s, like old-fashioned number 9s going on. And I think that's what we want Mason Greenwood to be. And I think all the talk's been about Cavani helping him do that. So I was happy with Cavani and Greenwood last night. And I was happy with the result. It was never in doubt. I mean, we didn't create too many chances, but we didn't have to. It was all on Granada. But it's great to be in. It's great to be in another semi-final. 5th one under Ollie, like, so.
Yeah.
Happy days.
Yeah, and talking about that relationship building, Ray, what would you think about maybe Pogba and Fernandes? Have we seen a bit more, being a bit more solid there in the middle?
Yeah, I think we're at the stumbling upon a system that teams haven't figured out yet. Rashford being out for the last couple of games with that foot injury. I think Pogba playing in that sort of left wing position, but doubling up on that 10 position with Bruno. I think it's after keeping a lot of teams guessing. And it's just, teams can't deal with it at the minute. Cavani keeps dropping in. Sometimes you see Pogba sometimes on the last defender, playing up as a target man. And the goal came from that, actually. So I think that's where we're getting a little bit of success now. I think that's after surprising people. And long may it continue, but there will come, see what happens in the next upcoming games with that situation, see how teams deal with that. But we have a few players now that are really playing well. I think more than half of the team are playing solid now. Even the players that came in had a great game, and it looks like we're finishing strong. So hopefully we can keep it going now.
Yeah, and keep the going. So we're talking about, Cavani renewing his contract, what that might look like, or is he going back to South America? But that goal, lads, what do you reckon? Something else stunning, Glenn, what?
Yeah. Oh, listen, it was just, to be honest with you, it's one of the best goals I've seen United score in a while. And it comes down that left-hand side, and we've looked dangerous down that left side all season with Shaw and Rashford. But last night it was Tellez Pogba. and it was a great. You could see Pogba point to Tellez where he wanted it. Okay, the ball into Pogba by Tellez. It wasn't, if we're honest, it wasn't great. But that header by Pogba was unbelievable, and that was meant for Cavani. He knew where Cavani was, and to get it to Cavani with a little flick and then the finish was super. And that's what Old Trafford is about. Goals like that. You know what I mean? I'm just gutted that you know, there was no fans in the stadium to see that, and Cavani actually hasn't experienced you know, the atmosphere of Old Trafford. Because I've come out on the podcast before and I've said that Cavani's been decent, but he hasn't, you know, turned over many trays, for, in my opinion. But in the last 2 games, we've seen exactly what he's about. So now I'm thinking and I'm saying to myself, you know, it wouldn't be too bad to try and keep him at the club for another year if he's going to be putting performances in like that. I mean, his movement and all last night was brilliant, you know. And you look at the goal, he doesn't catch it cleanly, he sort of shins it. But I think if he catches it cleanly, it doesn't go in. So I mean, that's what I think makes it even better. You know what I mean? That I hit off his shin and went in. But I think it was an absolute cracker. Great team goal. And I was delighted that Pogba got the assist as well.
Yeah, big time. And we could have saw Cavani get a second one as well, and then Greenwood could have got one as well. It was a good few chances in there. I was devastated Greenwood didn't get that goal, to be honest, because I would have loved Van der Beek to get an assist, you know, coming on as a substitute. I really think Van der Beek has potential. I think he's opening up a bit, and last night he kind of showed some of his good attributes that we maybe haven't had the chance to see.
He got a full half, and you'd be, you know, it's a lot different than getting 10 minutes only.
Yeah.
You know, you can be patient and getting the ball. Every time he comes on, he's getting 5 or 10 minutes. And all you want to do is try and get on the ball as quick as possible. And that may influence your game in a bad way. But he got a full half and he was able to build himself in the game. And he made a good few runs down that right-hand side. And he was involved in some of the build-up play through the middle. And it was good to see. I was delighted for him getting involved. He pulled some faces, though. Have you seen him shoot?
Yeah.
What's the story with that?
We saw them. Well, yeah, lads, we saw, Ray mentioned it earlier, we saw some players come in. We saw Zabi, Matic, Tellez. Overall, how did those players perform? Do you think we should be seeing a bit more of them, or maybe even a bit less of them?
I think they all done well. That's the thing. I think Zabi done well. I think he looks comfortable in there. And I've always said that he's a great young prospect, and I definitely think he should be one of the players that's getting more game time. You know, you look at it last night, it was great for, like, you know, Harry Maguire suspended, and it was sort of great for Maguire to sort of get that rest. But I think Zabi should have been playing in a lot more of those Europa League games, especially, and maybe even, you know, the FA Cup games. He definitely should have been getting ahead in there. But Tellez, another solid performance, got forward, had a hand in the goal. So we're looking strong. Like I think Ray said it earlier, like, you know, like players now are coming in and they're doing a job, like, you know what I mean? So we're not missing players. It doesn't feel like, oh, there's a player out injured, we're knackered now, what are we going to do? It feels like a player now is going to come in. There's a belief in the squad that, you know, we can go on and do it. And just go back to the Van der Beek thing, I don't want to bring it up too much, but the thing that I've noticed with him over the last couple of games that he's come on in is his energy. There seems to be, you know, a lot more about him. He seems to want to sprint that little bit more and all. And, you know, he moved into a couple of good positions last night. And there was actually a time where he gets down the line and he gives the ball out to Wan-Bissaka and he goes. And he's down the line. And if Wan-Bissaka gets the ball down the line to him, he's free. He's in acres of space. But the thing is, Wan-Bissaka didn't get the ball to him, but you could see the frustration of Van der Beek. And that's what I want to see. I was surprised that he probably didn't start that game last night. You know what I mean? I was worried. I was saying, Jesus, he's not going to start in a game where we're basically sure when is he going to start. But I think Ollie might be doing the right thing with him, because he's definitely improved over the last couple of weeks that I've seen him, especially with his energy. He put a great ball into the box. I don't know whether it was for Cavani. Was it for Cavani's header where he hit off his shoulder, or maybe it was Greenwood or something, but he put a great ball in.
Greenwood, yeah. Greenwood, yeah.
It was lovely, yeah. Good pick
out,
like straight. We could see it on the telly, and we were just like, right, put it in, and he did. He put it on. I think he hit off his his head and then his shoulder, if I'm not mistaken, and just went wide.
Yeah, it was unlucky, like, and that's all you need from him. And then he had that shot as well. You know,
Yeah.
Greenwood's through and he can't get out of his feet. Then the ball just stops there. It sits up perfect for him, and he just drags it wide. But if you go back a couple of months ago, he wouldn't have been in that position. He wouldn't have been able to get up and you know what I mean, get up to speed with the game. And I remember Ray saying that, you know, could be a fitness issue with him. Well, he definitely looks a little bit fitter now. So hopefully he can stay with it.
I think, Glenn, you know, when we do get further, I think in the way we play football, and if we expand a little bit on that, I think he'll stand out the most, because that's what he is, isn't he? He can play ball, he can play football, and I think when we play with a little bit more freedom, I think if you were to have Van de Beek in the team, I think he could make the difference. We've seen him a couple of times in the midfield, linking up with Bruno, playing little balls around the corner. We haven't really seen that, and it was nice to see. Okay, they didn't play out all the way. Granada, you know, intercepted a few of them, but it was a breath of fresh air seeing that bit of football in the team.
Yeah, and it's just, but people are turning around and say to you that, you know, or you know, Van der Beek's not starting, or this player's not starting, you know what I mean, Ahmed is not starting, let's say, or whatever. But what people forget is in this day of football is that it's you know, you need a squad. You need players to be able to probably sit there out for a couple of games and then come in then, you know what I mean? And you know, I think we forget as United fans that Ollie done that for a lot of his United career. You know, there was times where he wouldn't play for 4 or 5 games, and then he'd only make it a substitute appearance, and you have to sort of make the most of that. And I think we're starting to instill that, or that's starting to be instilled into players. When they come on and all, as I said, like when players are playing now, it doesn't feel like we're losing out on anything. It feels like we're sort of gaining in different areas. You know, where before we were sort of missing out. It's the looks of Rashford wasn't playing. We missed that pace. But last night, it didn't seem to affect us. Like, do you know what I mean? Because we adapted to it, where I don't think we were able to do that maybe at the beginning of the season or even last season.
Yeah, Glenn, that's both you. That's great points there. And I think it's consistency in that type of play that we're looking for, because sometimes we might start a game and we're so slow and we're like, well, where's all that energy gone that we had the other game, you know? And that's when it gets frustrating for me anyway. But lads, we'll move on. I'll throw in the trivia question here as we're halfway through the podcast, and I'll give the answer to this trivia question at the end. So, which Man United centre-back left United in 2003 to join Burnley? So I'll give you the answer to that question at the end of the podcast. This is 5th semi-final. Can we get past that and bring this cup back home?
Look, we have to get through the next round. We have to get this semi-final here off our backs. You can't be getting the 5 semi-finals. Like, I mean, when you think about that, we've only missed out on the FA Cup semi-final this year. Every other competition that Ollie's played in, we've gotten to the semi-final without actually getting past it. So that brings its own type of pressure. I just hope that Ollie knows how to take it off the team, because I do feel that will be on Ollie's mind. No matter what he says, you know, it's something that will be playing on his mind. I just hope that the players don't censor off him. I hope he's able to keep that side of it away from the players. But it definitely won't be easy, lads. You know what I mean? We're going up against an Italian side again, you know, and I keep hearing Paul Scholes giving us punditry. And the last time we were playing Milan, he said he backed us and he fancied us to beat them. And although we did, it became, not, I don't want to say a struggle, but it was definitely a game of about legs. And I think it's going to be the same with Roma, because Roma are 7th at the moment in Serie A, you know what I mean? And they're probably not a team that like they've been in the past. But if you're 7th in Serie A, you don't really have anything else to be playing for if you're in the semi-final of the Europa League. So it would definitely be tough going over there. And they definitely have players to the hurdles. Like, you look at Dzeko, he's 35, but I mean, he the way he plays, age isn't really a factor. And you know, if you give him a chance, he's going to score, and he scored against Ajax. He got the equaliser against Ajax last night. And you're looking at the likes of Chris Smalling and Henrik Mkhitaryan, and Chris Smalling in particular, maybe he has a point to prove to Ollie. He never really got a chance under Ollie. You know, Roma's after giving him that chance. He was on loan there last season. He's made the deal permanent this season. So maybe he has a point to prove. Mkhitaryan, you know, United player won't go down as a great by any means, but you have to remember he had a huge hand to play in United winning the Europa League back in 2017 when Mourinho was there, not just because he scored in the final, but he scored in a lot of the rounds leading up to the final. So I don't think it's going to be easy, and I definitely think that the semi-final pressure will play a part. It's just whether we can overcome that on the pitch. And that's where Ollie's management will really be tested. Because if we don't get past it, I don't care what anyone says, it's a failure. To me, the season will be a failure if we don't get past the semi-final. Yeah, definitely, 100%. Because we're the favourites because we're the best team, innit? You know?
Yeah.
The only worry I really would have is that Unai Emery is still in there with Villarreal and he's won it a couple of times with Seville. So, you know what I mean? Like, you'd have to take that into a little bit of consideration. But in terms of getting to the final, you know, we have to do it. The players have to do it. Ollie has to do it. Just for the sake of the squad, you know, because after a while, if you keep failing at the same thing, you know yourself, lads, from anything that you do, you just start saying, you know what, we actually can't do it.
That's the barrier,
I can't do it.
Yeah, and this is Man United, lads. We should be in the Champions League, and if we're not in the Champions League, we should definitely be winning the Europa League. So, Glenn, you said something there about, you know, Roma maybe easing off because they're in seventh place, I think, in Serie A, but you know they're not far off fifth place, and that's to get Europa. That's to be in Europe next year. Do you get me? So we think they're under a lot of pressure, and you can see from their fixtures that they're not winning. They're drawing a few, and maybe even losing. And they've lost to AC Milan, big team. We beat them. They've also lost to Parma, who are like second last, I think, in Serie A. So they do slip up. And then if you're watching some of that game against Ajax, like they weren't. Personally, I don't think they were the better team.
But that doesn't matter, man. I mean, it's a semi-final. Like that's what I'm saying about the pressure of the semi-final. We have our own teams going into it. You know what I mean? And you have to remember, like, okay, you know, they're 2 points off fifth, which is a Europa League spot. But if you win the Europa League, you get Champions League football. So there's the incentive there for Roma to go all the way, really. You know what I mean? Just don't expect it to be an easy game. I don't think any game's been easy. Like, I mean, you know, apart from the Sociedad game, I don't think the Granada games were easy. You know what I mean? I think they were just job done. But I don't expect, you know, Roma to roll over or us to steamroll them. You know, they're Italians at the end of the day. They're geared to defend. So we'll see what happens.
Brave, what you reckon, Roma? Do you think they're the same mold as the Italian teams of old that we would have seen?
Nah, not the same quality, Rory, but you know, at the end of the day, they are an Italian team, and they'll consider themselves one of the Italian greats. The club with loads of history. You know, some players in that team that could be pushing the final years of their career. This is a great opportunity to them to win something. You know, on paper, we are the better team, the best team in the Europa League. But I think if we start looking towards that final too early and not, you know, game manage the game against Roma and go in there with the right mentality, I think they could do us. Like, we're at that stage now that any team can beat any team. It's a semi-final. I think what we've shown in the last while, the way we've approached games and come out and try to be on the front foot, I think that's suited as well. I think defensively we've been good lately. You know, we've seen it with Twanzebe coming in and not really looking any different. The team's still looking as a unit. And I think over the 2 legs, we're going to need the big squad. You know, you're looking at some of the yellow cards that we've been picking up early in games. That could be a factor. You know, I think a few of the lads are 1 yellow card away from suspension. So I think we need to be on our toes there. And we've just mentioned that the squad that we do have, and you know, like I was saying, that could come into play. But we can't overlook Roma. You know, we can't overlook Roma. They're looking at us as saying, you know, they're probably saying we can beat them. Of course, they have to be. You know, they're probably identifying our weaknesses, and that's our weaknesses in the box. Maybe with Dzeko up there, they're gonna, you know, try and put balls in the box to him all night.
Yeah.
And it's going to be interesting how we deal with that. Do we have enough? It'll show a lot about our character and what have we progressed. That's what that hurdle is there, the semi-final hurdle. It's probably more mentally than that, and looking past the semi-final can be that course.
That's
You
right.
have
That's why I think. That's why I said, Ray, that if you don't get past the semi-final, it's a failure. Because you're right. It feels like we're geared up towards this. Our seasons that they're coming down to this now, isn't it? Like, we're basically qualified the Champions League now. You know what I mean? Like, but it's can only get that first trophy, and to get that trophy, he has to get through that semi-final. And you see all the jokes going around the social medias and all. Wally and United can't get past the semi and all this fucking bollocks. You know what I mean? But you're right, Ryan, in what you're saying, like, you know what I mean? We're geared up towards this, so if we don't get it, it's a failure.
I
I'll
think
tell
in
you,
a way, like, sorry, Roddy, going over there, I'm not sure if it's the first leg over there, is it? If we go over there, I think we're lucky in a way that there's no fans, because I've been in that stadium before, and it's unbelievable. They're crazy, them fans. So I think that'll be good for it. And we're an away team, so I think if we can bring some home to Old Trafford, I think we'll have enough. We'll have enough quality even coming off the bench. It's a game that all our players will want to play. Semi-final in the Europa League. It's starting to become really serious now, and you can tell the lads are buzzing for it, looking forward to what's to come.
yeah, right. Talking about the bench there and talking about who's starting, maybe. Do you think how important is it that Pogba starting this match, or is available
100%.
even?
100%. I think we need to keep this system. I think it's surprising a lot of teams. You get to see Pogba coming out with a lot of energy. Like, to just go back quickly, he was playing for Mourinho in that defensive role, and he probably didn't accept it. Now that's not right or wrong, but he sort of, interviews coming out and saying under Ollie that he just has to do a job now. His attitude has changed even when he's playing there, but you can see when he plays higher up. I know in an interview with Rio Ferdinand, he said he'd prefer playing higher up, but if he has to do a job in the middle, he'll do it once he's part of the team. That was nice to hear. But if he plays higher up in them areas with Cavani dropping in and with Greenwood or whoever it may be on that right wing, you have to think that you can't be stopped. I've seen some that second half against Tottenham, and what I've seen in the games against Granada, especially the one at Old Trafford, I think we can beat anyone with that. I think anything outside the box that lands to any of our players, we have the quality to shoot, to pass, to open teams up. We have the quality in the box now with Cavani, even though sometimes he doesn't really play well. Like against Granada, he scored, which was great, but sometimes getting involved in build-up play has let him down. The pass is a little bit, the weight of the pass or something. It just sometimes he interrupts the play, but that's okay. Once he's pulled the ball in the back of the net, you can't ask for any more than that. So I think we have enough quality, Rory, to go through, providing we apply ourselves correctly, I'd say,
Yeah, and I think you could see that in the Ajax game against Roma, that Ajax they were able to open them up, and they got into those positions, but the finishing wasn't there. So I'm hoping that the lads are on form and we don't see like a Greenwood header going wide off his shoulder, or Cavani missing the ball, or Matic missing his header, but getting OG out, but
Yeah.
but so we need to be clinical, because I think we will get those chances. What you reckon, Glenn?
Yeah, Roddy, it just comes down to preparation. That's the most important thing now. This game and how the players are prepared by Ollie. I'll go back to it, because there's just this game really comes down to. I know it's the team on the pitch playing, but it comes down to Ollie, and can he get a United team into a final, because it has become a thing. So I think it's about how he prepares it. And if he goes in and he shows a little bit of confidence in the meeting rooms when they're going through a bit of tactics and they're going through what they want to do, that will rub off on the players. There's no doubt that we have the better players and we're the better team. But how many times have we seen, let's say the underdog go through? You know what I mean? Because they've showed more heart and they've showed more desire. Like, I think last night, Pogba done well for the 45 minutes. I was impressed with him. It was a big call to make him captain by Ollie, that was. And, you see him getting booked, and I don't know what he got booked for, because he was running with the ball, and then the referee just blew the whistle and gave him a yellow card for basically holding the opposition player off. But you could see that annoyed him, and he was determined. And I know I was sitting there and I was texting you, Ray, and I felt like, not that he was going to get sent off on purpose. Never did I think that. But I just felt because he was that tenacious and that annoyed and that determined that he might overstep the mark a little. And you could see it at the end of the game. He's on the bench then for the second half, the whole 45 minutes. And then at the end of the game, he goes out to the fourth official, and he's actually given out to the fourth official, obviously saying, why was I booked? Because the thing is, lads, I think if he gets a booking in the next round, he'll miss the second leg. And I think even if he gets to the second leg without being booked, if he gets booked again in that second leg, he's out for the final. So it's huge. We have to play with our heads and not our hearts when we get over the.
That's very interesting that you said this. That there is very surprising. You said that Pogba played well for 45 minutes, right? Previous podcast, Glenn hasn't been too happy about Pogba, has he?
I know where Glenn's coming from. I can see it. Pogba, it's a package, isn't it? That's circus a thing. And the first segment we got in, I know for a fact that this is going to be another segment of that circus that Glenn talks about. This is going to lead on. Mourinho's going to get back at him, and it's the last thing we need now. We need our heads in the game. And the thing about Pogba with the armband, I think a little bit, he had that flair in him, like a young footballer, rather than, thinking I need to, calm myself down here, even though if I have the captain's armband on me hand, on my arm, I think he was letting that get to him a little bit. He got invested in, I need to show people I'm wearing the captain's armband, I'm going to put myself about here, which in a way is good because we don't know what's going to happen with Pogba. But these sort of expressions indicate that he maybe looks happy to sign and hopefully we can hold on to him. Like I was saying, we're trying to build something where we keep teams guessing them, we dominate the ball and we always have that threat. I think he's a big part of that. I think when you're looking across as an opposition and you're saying, of this fella coming up against me, like what he did to Aurier and all, just like the whole game nearly, just Aurier couldn't get the ball on, like just keeping the ball in the corner, things like that. Just, I think if you have a player like that in your team, it just encourages you to get involved and do more and support them in that way, and the team benefits from it,
But there's no problem. I've no Brody. Look, you know what I mean. I have criticised Pogba, and thanks for pointing that out. I've no problem praising him and saying what a great player he is. When he's given 110%, and sometimes when you're given 110%, you're not going to be at your best. But if you're given that 110%, you can see it on the pitch, and sometimes you don't always see that with Pogba. That's the thing. And Ray was saying there about the interview he gave to Rio Ferdinand, where he says he preferred to play further up the pitch. That's grand. And if he feels like that he's better up there, even better. And it looks like he is in recent performances. But if you're asked to play, a deeper role, play it and do it to the best of your ability and run them hard yards back. Sometimes he doesn't do it, but I don't want to get into a whole Pogba thing. He done well in the 45 minutes that he was on the pitch, and he captained the side and he looked determined. And to be honest, I was worried that he might get sent off because the commentators kept saying it as well, which was freaking me out. I think it was panicking me even more because they kept going on about being on the pitch. And
I was watching the pre-press conference, and I think one of the questions was, are you going to keep Pogba out given that he's on a yellow card? So when he got the yellow card, I think I left a message in the group where I was fuming because I thought he was out for the first leg. But then Glenn informed me he's not.
Yeah, 3 times. I informed him 3 times that he was wrong,
But even still, that he wasn't taken straight off, right? I think was a bit of a surprise, like, you know what I mean?
Because
he probably learned from the Fred thing.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, right? Yeah.
Well, here, lads, we're talking about the Europa Cup final here, our semi-final, getting through the final, and hopefully winning it. But only down the road, Etihad Stadium, Man City are looking at a quadruple. Now, I don't want to put a damper on the mood, boys, but that's big, you know. You're the team who did the treble, and now Man City could be taking that away. It must. Do you reckon it's a possibility it's going to happen for them? Just quickly there, we don't want to spend too much time on it, but given the fixtures that they have coming up, it's a lot of games. Ray, what you reckon is a
I
possibility?
don't know, the quadruple, it's crunch time for them as well. The Champions League is a big one for them at the moment. You could say they have the league wrapped up, even though you want to believe, and anything can happen in football, but you could say the league is theirs now. Champions League, they're coming up against probably one of the most dangerous teams at the minute, PSG. They could be easily knocked out. Mourinho's having such a bad season at the minute, and things are going so wrong for him. But I wouldn't be surprised if they beat City in the League Cup. So you just don't know. I think. But do they have the squad, and do they have the manager and the players at the moment that can pull something off like that? Definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm a little bit worried, to be honest, yeah, because you look at that Dortmund game over 2 legs. I don't think Dortmund are great. That's the truth. But normally, like in previous seasons, that might have been a game where City slipped up. You think back to the first leg. Dortmund equalised, and it looks like it 1-1 going into the second leg. Foden pops up with a last-minute winner. You look at the second leg then again, it wasn't a great. Dortmund aren't great, but they ploughed through in the end. I suppose we'll find out on Saturday or Sunday, is it, when they're playing in the FA Cup semi-final against Chelsea, if the quadruple is on. Personally, I'd love Chelsea to go and beat them. But I don't see them going to win the Champions League. In my heart, I don't, because I think PSG are it's like, how do you stop Mbappe and Neymar and them sort of players over 2 legs? But in my head, I'm thinking, they might have a little bit of luck. I think back to that Jude Bellingham goal that was overruled at the Etihad in the first leg. He clearly wins the ball off the keeper, and the referee gives a free kick. So there's a lot of luck in that as well. But hopefully they don't. But if they do, you wouldn't be able to hold any grudges around. You'd have to just hold your hands up and say, look, the best team probably ever. Well, they would go down as the best team in Premier League history just because they've won 4 trophies. It's an unbelievable achievement, especially when he came from the start of the season. But hopefully someone could stop them.
Yeah, please God, lads. But the last couple, moving on there, got away from Manchester City as well as Man City. In the last couple of days, we've been strongly linked with Real Madrid's Rafael Varane. And it's even coming out in Spanish news outlets that they're reporting that the deal is close to being signed for United. That will come at a cost around maybe 60 million, I say. Lads, is this a deal we want to get over the line? Is this a deal we can get over the line, providing that United are interested in Varane, or should we be interested in Varane? Glenn, what do you reckon?
Yeah, definitely. You'd have to snap him up if he's available. Go get him. I mean, he's been a consistent performer for Madrid since he's been in that side. So you're going back about 7 seasons. He's played well over 30 games in each of those seasons. You're looking at he's a league winner, Champions League winner, a World Cup winner. He can defend. He's 27 as well. That's, you know what I mean? Like, this is a player that's in his prime. You could get. He still has a good 4 or 5 years in him. And if you're lucky, you might even get even more out of him. And the price tag, 60 million, I think that's they're telling about. Like, if that's the price, you'd snap that up. There's fullbacks that go for 50 million. So, like, a centre-back of Varane's quality, 60 million, you'd have to take it because he would improve us. You know what I mean? You don't. I don't really remember a game. And I could be wrong because it's not as if I watch Varane week in, week out. But I don't think you can have a career that he's had at Madrid if you're not a top performer, with the way the fans are over there and with the way the club are. And I don't ever really see him being demolished by any player one-on-one or anything, So he could give us that little bit of confidence and, maybe take that extra sitting midfielder that we play with, that team in the middle out with the likes of him at the back, because he has a little bit of pace about him as well, and he might suit Maguire, you know. And you're thinking as well, like, without taking a hit at Maguire, you know, we paid 80 million for Maguire, and you have a chance if the papers and all are true, 60 million for a 4-time Champions League winner, 3 of them in a row.
Yeah.
Go get him.
And Glenn, you're saying all this great stuff about Varane, but if I was Madrid now, I'd be thinking, am I letting a defender like that go? And why am I doing that? You know what I mean? So Ray, if this transfer is going through, why are Madrid letting them go?
I think they have a few financial issues, Roddy. I think the wages that these players are demanding at the moment from Madrid are huge, and I think that's the issue. And I think we could solve that issue for him. I think he's a player, like Glenn was saying, 27 years of age. He's won everything, and he's been around ages. This is a player that Fergie wanted at United back before he went to Real Madrid. They were scouting him, you know, and Mourinho wanted him all the way through. Obviously, Mourinho gave him his start. It's just a player that's ready now, and you're looking at the sort of young talent that we have at the minute that are going to take some time to ripe, if you want to use that word. I think Varane would be such a player to bring in at this time. I think he's the sort of player that will get you out of Champions League group stages and help you push on. I think he's the player that will help you win some of the important trophies that we should be winning. You know, Glenn is saying that we were he's 60 million, and some of the other centre backs that we were linked to are not too far below that. So if you're thinking to add a little bit more on top for Varane and give him what he wants to get him here to add to the quality that we have at the moment, I think that could be one of the final puzzles. But whether he's not even thinking of leaving and he's just looking for a better contract at Madrid, you know, that could be. We've been used before like this from Sergio Ramos, a couple of other big names across Europe. We shall see. But if he's available and he wants to come and he wants a new challenge, do everything you can to bring him in. Definitely.
Look, if you have a player, if you have a player, right? Let's just say Virgil van Dijk, who was a top centre half, right? Going for 75 million after winning a couple of leagues in Scotland and then going to Southampton, and then you have a player of Varane's pedigree, and again, World Cup winner, La Liga winner, Champions League winner, going for 60 million. If you don't go for that, then we're idiots. Do you know what I mean? If it's there, I get what Ray is saying there. Could be a chance that maybe Varane is playing both sides off each other to get an improved contract. But if when you read into some of these articles and everything that's been reported, it just seems like he wants a new challenge.
Great.
That's what means, and if he does, come to us. Not because he'll definitely get a challenge there. You know, he might want to experience the Premier League, come and experience it at Old Trafford. And as Ray said, in Champions League, look at the experience he has in that. You know, and it'll only help us all across the back. You know what I mean? And going into midfield, because you can imagine the likes of Varane telling his defensive midfielder where to be on the pitch and where to cover him and all. You know what I mean? Like that's things that you're getting. 60 million would be an absolute steal for him. So if it's true, let's go get him.
Yeah. My only worry would be that if it becomes a bidding war, you know, the minute he actually becomes available, you're gonna get clubs like Chelsea, like Man City, like everyone really, you know, turning this into a bidding war. And you know, once Chelsea are in a transfer battle, it's hard with it. They don't mess around.
I think, yeah, Ray. I think if he had to pick between United and Chelsea, I think he'd pick Chelsea. But I think if it came to money, as in the bidding, I think Chelsea might be able to outbid United, because you know what we're like. We're fighting over the last penny. You know what I mean? But in regards to City, whose place would he take at City? I mean, Diaz and Stones has started to build up a good relationship this season. Like, could you see Pep, breaking that up to bring in Varane? Like, don't get me wrong, I think Varane would sit well in any side, but would Pep be willing to do that?
Be more worried about Chelsea. You know, when they go in, you know yourself, the only thing, like you were saying, would be wages. We pay big wages, so But in terms of a fee, I'd say Chelsea can outbid anyone really. They've been. And there's another team there that's going to be looking to build as well and be a big challenge for next season. But if you want to get ahead of these teams, this is the deals that you want to be doing, isn't it?
They should be getting worked on now. If there's a hint of getting Varane in, this deal should be getting worked on now. We should be in contact with his representatives now, saying, "Look, we want them. What do we need? Like, you know what I mean? The money's there. What's his wage demands or whatever, and see can we get it over and done." Yeah. My biggest fear is that it's going to drag all over the summer again, and we end up with nobody. I'd like to get the deal done as early as possible, so we're going into a proper pre-season with the players that we wanted in the squad. And getting to know the players, so we're ready for when the new season starts.
Yeah, boys. And another link just coming on, moving in there a little bit, is Jadon Sancho. He's linked with us again, and it said that that Dortmund are dropping the asking price to around 86 million. So, is that a deal we'd like to see happen? And where would Sancho then fit in, you reckon, to the team? And we've talked about this before, but maybe let's go into a bit more detail on it, Ray. What do you reckon?
Yeah, well, a player that we've been after already last summer, we invested a lot of time in him. I think they were talking about everything was done by the fee of the player, which was 108 million pounds at the time, and Dortmund wouldn't budge on that. So obviously that deal never came true, and I think Sancho was affected in a way because this season he hasn't been as good as he was. So they probably obviously promised him something that he let him go this season. The only thing I'll be worried about is, like, he's a great player, we know it, and it's a player I think that'll add another level of quality, and it's a position that we've been struggling a little bit in that right wing. We have to accommodate other sort of Greenwood's been doing that job. The only thing I'd say is that we don't actually know the direction that the club want to go in at the moment. Ollie came out and said something about a CDM, I think, not too far long ago. And if a deal like this, like Varane, becomes available, which ones are you going to choose? I think we've already invested some money in Amad Diallo, and he could come good, but you never know. So the direction is unknown at the minute. But if a player like Sancho, if you're asking me if a player like Sancho would add to the team, of course, he'll give us that extra few gears. A lot of creativity will come from the right-hand side, which we've been struggling with. Wan-Bissaka, he's a great defensive player, but getting up that wing sometimes lets him down. So the direction of the club is still unknown yet. I think it's dependent on what Cavani decides, I think. Because if Cavani decides to leave, the strikers that we'd want to be bringing in, I don't think we're going to spend as much money as Kane is valued at, or Haaland. So I think we'll probably have to keep Martial and start moving Greenwood into that forward position a little bit earlier than expected, and then you could probably invest that money into Sancho and cover that right wing. But if we decide to go, say, centre defensive midfielder and centre back, that's also good, and not bring not go for Sancho this season. It's still a good decision because we still have Amad Diallo, who maybe could come through and fill that position up sooner rather than later.
Yeah, Glenn, what you reckon on this one is by saying that we could see some players moving into other positions with Greenwood and that. Do you think this is a deal we should get over the line this year?
I think it depends on how Dortmund want the fee. If they want 86 million straight up, then no. If we can break it down into installments, then yeah. Because then that still leaves us with a bit of money to say bring in the likes of Varane. So then if you want to bring in Varane and Sancho, then you're after having a great transfer window. If they want 86 million up front, forget about it. I agree with Ray. You've Diallo there who does look sharp. He looked sharp against Granada when he came on, and looked dangerous. He needs to fill out a little bit, which we've touched on before. You know what I mean? But I'm sure he's doing that every day. He's working on that every day. The thing is, if you bring Sancho in as well, it doesn't necessarily mean that Diallo will be pushed down the line. It shouldn't. It just goes back to having a squad to be able to deal with all the competitions. You know what I mean? And having the trust in them. But if you're just to say it again, 86 million outright straight out, no, I wouldn't give it. You know, he's been injured a little bit this season, although his stats over at Dortmund are unbelievable. But 86 million in this current climate, no. Installments, yeah. For me, I think, you know, I'd like to see Varane in the race time about a defensive midfielder. If we're bringing in a defensive midfielder, then we have to let someone go in that position. You know what I mean? You can't have Fred, McTominay, Matic. Well, maybe Matic would be the one to go then, yeah. But you wouldn't know what to believe when it comes to this Sancho team, because for me, you know, Dortmund are a great club for breeding in the youngsters, but you know, you never got the message last season that Sancho definitely wanted to join United. There wasn't that push from him to say, yeah, look, come and get me. It all seemed to be done behind the scenes, and you know, Dortmund set out what they wanted for him last year, and United didn't even come close to matching it. I mean, they went past the deadline. And then I think they only bid, what was it, 80 million or something, when they wanted 120. Was it Ray or something like that? I'm not too sure.
Yeah.
You have to be careful what you're dealing with here as well, you know what I mean? And not to be bullied in the market, because look, Dortmund are going to need to sell players. That's why they dropped their price for them. They're going to need it. You know, and every club will come out and tell you, no, we're financially sound and all, and the COVID hasn't impacted us because we were in good shape before it. COVID has impacted every club. So if they drop that price, it's because they need the money. So we should muscle in there and tell them, we want Sancho, this is how much we're going to give you. If you want the 86 million, here's 86 million on 8 teams. That's it. If not, good luck.
Yeah. Well, lads, we might leave the transfers at that and move on to the game against Burnley. Sean Dyche's Burnley are visiting Old Trafford this Sunday. So definitely looking forward to this game. And in score predictions, I'm thinking 2-1. I'd say I'm seeing Henderson start, and I'd love Greenwood to smash one in, to be honest, boys. But I don't see us keeping a clean sheet. Hey, what's your predictions?
I'm going to go 2-0. I'm going to go with the clean sheet. I think Burnley's been, it's been one of our dodgy clubs lately. We haven't beaten them, I think, at home in 2 years. So 2-0. Pogba and Cavani.
Oh, okay, Glenn, give us yours.
I'm going to go 3-1, just because Ray took my 2-0 at me. But I'm going to go 3-1. I'm going to go Cavani, Greenwood and Bruno. I would love to see Cavani get another goal, just keep that goal scoring run through. And I do agree with you, Henderson straight back into the starting 11.
Happy days, boys. Now, but I have to say about Burnley, and if you look at their past fixtures, they're not on a great run, but they have had some wins, but they're definitely scoring goals, lads. You know, they seem to always just get one. So, Ray, you're predicting a clean sheet there. Do you see Henderson in goal, or what's the crack?
Yeah, I see Henderson in goal. I think he's slowly at the making that spot his own now. I see Maguire obviously coming back in. He'll be fresh. So hopefully now we keep another clean sheet. You know, we're at home, so and our best games have been away from home. So I'm a little bit doubtful of that. But we've changed the colour of the banners around the stadium. So we're going to be deadly now. You know, no more messing about, no more mistakes now.
No flip-flopping around the bush.
That's it.
But, yeah, boys. We lost my train of thought there, Glenn. Come in and help me.
Yeah, I think, like, I'm not looking forward to the game, Roddy. I'm really not, because the Burnley don't change their style of play for anybody. That's the thing. They've one style of play. It's everyone has their job to do. They know what they're going to do. They're going to give you 110%. They make you work for absolutely everything. And I think for us to get the result, which we're well capable of, it's about us being patient and not letting Burnley know when we are frustrated that we actually are. If you get what I'm saying, you know what I mean? And we think in the first time we played them in Tough Moor this season, you know, they were really narrow. They played real narrow, they did. But as the game wore on, we started to drag them out, and you were seeing that centre backs and all coming across to the left back positions and all, and that's when we start getting a bit of joy, and that's when we got a goal and Pogba scored that volley. So I think, you know, stuff like that. We'll have to get patterns of play to make the Burnley back 4 or 5 and move around the pitch, because as I said, they're not going to change their style of play for anybody. So it's up to us. The onus is on us to try and get them to come out. And that's why I think Cavani is perfect to start this game, because he gives us that threat now. Even when someone is defending the box or defending the width of the box, his movement gives the two centre backs a problem all day long. And if we have the service input from the likes of Greenwood, Rashford, Pogba, Bruno, then there's definitely goals there. I think that again, it's trying to work. Like as Ray said, Burnley have a good record at Old Trafford. I think they've in 4 games, the last 4 games anyway, they've won 1 and drawn 3 or something. So they'll come with a little bit of confidence. It's whether we can overcome that, and hopefully with the background change that happens.
Yeah, and Ollie always says we play every game to win. We put out the squad that's going to win the game. I think that's very important here because, as you mentioned, City are out for the quadruple, and we want to keep that pressure on them. Even though it looks like they have the league, we want to keep winning games. We want to make sure that they can't slip and maybe get the league summed up before the end of the season, and they can concentrate on something else. Yeah, right.
Yeah, the momentum is huge, Rory. We have to keep putting our strongest team out there again, and keep that momentum going. I think the bit of the slight little change in the system, like I was saying, I'm really impressed with that. I think it's gonna cause teams problems. Not only do you have another target man up there with Cavani if Pogba pushes on, but then you've got like 2 number 10s, Bruno beside Pogba at times when Pogba cuts in off the left wing. I think we can cause anyone problems, and then we have the ability outside the box to pick up second balls from Bruno and Pogba as well to be hitting balls from that area. So I think it just points into an easy win for us this time around. And I think we're doing well, and it's time to sort of get over that hurdle again against Burnley. Like Glenn was saying, we've been coming up short a little bit, and I think it's to do with mentality and being engaging in that fight that they put up, but not engaging in the game that they want to play. I think we should still be clever with the ball and play to our strengths, but match them on that on that physical side of things. And then we should be okay, hopefully. But you never know.
Yeah, it's interesting that you're mentioning that system there, Ray, because Ollie said in one of the interviews, there was a lack of pre-season to kind of experiment a bit. So do you think after all these games that this is the system kind of coming through that they didn't get to experiment with at the start? Is this what we're seeing now?
I think it's been a crazy season, Rory, and I think training and preparation hasn't been really to the the highs you really want from a team. I think when you're playing so many games, I think you're just worrying about getting a recovery session in and maybe just preparing for the team coming up, because they're coming up every 3 days. So that's the best you can really do, recovery and plan for that team on that day. But in terms of developing different styles of play, I don't think many teams have been able to do that. And considering the fact that we haven't been able to do that, if you look at the sort of play we've been shown lately, I think we're doing very well. I think the fact that Rashford's been injured and Pogba being out on that wing has maybe surprised even Ollie himself. Don't think it was planned. I think obviously you have players like Cavani on the team that'll just tell you, listen, I have the experience, just play behind me there for a few minutes and see what happens. And I think from that, I think we've stumbled upon something that's really working, causing teams a lot of trouble. Bruno can, take that step back and drag players out of positions, and other players like Pogba and Cavani can fall in. And I think it's looking good. So hopefully we can carry on. And momentum, I know, is we're talking about momentum, and it's huge, yeah.
The thing is, you go back to the Spurs game, Rashford started out on the right because Pogba started out on the left. and you can see that Rashford is not that comfortable out on the right, as comfortable as he would be out on the left. And I've said it from a lot of the times that I think that's Rashford's natural position is coming in from the left. But what Pogba playing out there does do, it gives Ollie a headache. You know what I mean? Of how does he play there, and in what particular games. But it also creates competition amongst the squad now. You know, because now you're looking and you're saying, well, I don't want to play out on the right, but I'm playing out there just to get into the team. But what I really want to do is I want to get out onto the left where I feel more comfortable. But the trick to us this season's been is that we've looked dangerous down the left no matter who's played there. You know, I thought Shaw and Rashford were building up a nice little relationship down the left there this season, and they have been. But you look at Telles and Pogba, they've been doing the same. Shaw and Pogba have been doing the same. So I think what Ray is that, you know, there wouldn't have been an awful lot of time to train. Definitely not. It's been games every 3 games for United. We played a midweek game, I think, all season, which is staggering when you think about it, you know. But look, it's vital we get the 3 points against Burnley, just because Man City are playing in the FA Cup semi-final, so we have a game in hand. If we win it, we go 8 points behind them. Look, stranger things have happened. They came back in 2012 from the exact same position, 6 games to go, 8 points off, and won it. Does it look likely? No. But if we're close to City when the season finishes, it looks even better for us. Do you know what I mean? And it shows us how far we've actually come. And as Ollie says, it's your judge on progress in the league, and it gives us a good standing going into next season anyway, you know. But I wouldn't be expecting fireworks anyway. You never really get that against the Sean Dyche side. He's happy enough to just let United dominate the ball and hope to just contain them. But I'm telling you, if we move it quick and we move it sharp as we had over the last couple of weeks, especially last week against Spurs, then we shouldn't have a problem.
Boys, you see any players being rested for this, or are we going out full force?
We don't know what the situation where Rashford is. I think in that game against Tottenham, Glenn's talking about, Ollie would have probably liked to not have to play him. But because we've seen that he can go periods of the game without being in the game and popping up with something special, I think that's the reason he was on the pitch. So I think if we're going to do something, I might be leaving him out again and having him come off the bench. That's where I think we'll probably go with the same team that started against Granada, bar the players that were suspended coming in, like Shaw, Telles and Maguire. And then obviously McTominay, and then obviously Henderson coming back in. So that's the way I see it. You know, going back to the way we were playing with Rashford, just on the left-hand side, like it just looked like he was running out of things to do. Sometimes you'll get into them positions outside the box, having carried the ball about 15, 20 yards, and then he'll suddenly come to a sudden stop. Sometimes it's like it just go blank.
He lacks that bit of composure that Pogba has brought into that position, really. As you said, Ray, you know, Pogba can get down, you know, into the corner, hold players off, and then somehow be able to move into the box with the ball after maybe 2 players trying to hold him off, you know what I mean? Not taking that away from Rashford, because, you know, he has been really for us this season, and there's still loads of room for him to improve. But, you know, there is talk about Rashford and his foot not being right, you know what I mean? And if he's not fully fit, he shouldn't start the game. And I think that's been one of the problems that Ollie sort of created amongst the squad, I feel, is that when players have been not 110%, and don't get me wrong, I know every player is not 110% that goes onto the pitch, but when you have a player like Rashford that you know is genuinely playing through the pain barrier, shoulder injuries, foot injuries, you have to give him a break, you know, and we have to trust the squad. And that's what I was saying earlier. I feel now that players can come in, and we do have that change of system where someone can move somewhere else to accommodate the likes of Pogba moving into that position. Or, you know, say for instance, you know, yesterday or the game against Granada, we sort of played that diamond in the middle, you know what I mean, where you had Fred and Matic sort of switching, and, you know, Bruno sort of coming out onto the right hand side a lot to receive the ball as well. So we have that in our locker now that we can change things up a little bit. So I don't think we need to be over reliant on players like Rashford in games against Burnley in any way. You know, if you're going into a huge game against one of the bigger clubs, then yeah. But if we can give him a rest, and you know, he didn't play against Granada, if we can get him another rest, even 45 minutes or maybe 70-minute rest, and then bring him on, then grant. But I don't think we should be risking injuring any of our players, considering the games we have coming up against Roma.
Yeah, big time, boys. And I suppose I'm just going to come back to that trivia question before we close it in. Now, we've a lot of points there, a lot of stuff to go through all night, and I'm sure there'll be more over the next few days, given Pogba's interview needs to be broadcasted further. But look, we'll look at all that. So the trivia question was, which Manchester United centre-back left United in 2003 to join Burnley? And the answer to that question is David May. Now, David's one season at Burnley proved to be his last in professional football, as he struggled in a Burnley side that was just stayed in the second tier after a difficult season. He signed for Burnley on the 13th of August 2003, following their open day defeat at home to Crystal Palace. David made his debut in front of the Sky cameras in a 4-1 defeat at West Brom. Well, there's a little bit of history for you. So that's this is for this week. Join us for our match reaction this Sunday, where it's a great chance to cut City's lead down to 8 points, as Glenn mentioned earlier. And you can join us for the Devil's Bit weekly podcast, which will be back next week. We'll be looking ahead to that War of the Roses when we take on Leeds at Ellen Road. So until then, have a great weekend. And as always, speak to you soon.